What if the proteins you've trusted for years, the ones you believed were good enough for your bones, were never actually sending the signal your bones need to stay strong? And what if some of those everyday choices are quietly maintaining the system, while others are allowing bone strength to fade after 60 without you noticing? If you're over 60, this matters far more than most people realize. Bone loss rarely announces itself with pain or warning. It happens silently, gradually, one missed signal at a time. According to newer research in aging and bone biology, bone density after 60 is influenced less by how much protein you eat and more by how your bones respond to it. That insight alone challenges what many of us were taught about bone health. Here's an uncomfortable question most adults never stop to ask. Could it be that you're eating enough protein, yet your bones are still starving? Not for calories, not for nutrition, but for the specific biological signal that activates bone-building cells known as osteoblasts. And if that signal never arrives, even the best senior diet for bones can fall short. Recent findings in bone metabolism research show that osteoblasts, the cells responsible for rebuilding bone tissue, become highly selective with age. In simple terms, aging bones don't respond equally to every protein source. Some barely register. Others deliver a clear, powerful command. Rebuild, reinforce, adapt. And if you're over 60, your bones have far less tolerance for weak signals than they did decades ago. That shift explains why many bone health routines quietly stop working over time. Most people are never told this. Instead, they're advised to eat more protein and move on. But what if that guidance is incomplete? What if the type of protein, and even the order in which protein sources appear in your daily routine, matters more than the total amount, especially for seniors concerned about bone loss or osteoporosis prevention? This is where many well-intentioned habits begin to fail without anyone realizing why. And here's the part that should make you pause. Some protein sources people rely on every day are excellent for general health, yet nearly invisible to bone tissue. Meanwhile, a few underestimated options send a much stronger signal for bone repair, even in older adults. You won't feel this difference overnight. There's no immediate sensation, but over months and years, the gap becomes structural, directly affecting balance, posture, and long-term bone strength. So stay with me for a moment, because in just a few seconds I'm going to show you how protein signals actually work inside aging bones, and why starting with the wrong choice can quietly stall progress before it ever begins. As we move forward, you may recognize why some habits only slow bone loss, while others truly help rebuild bone density naturally. And just ahead, you'll discover why the strongest protein signal for aging bones is often the one most people overlook, and why understanding this now can change what happens to your bones after 60. For many adults over 60, bone loss doesn't arrive with pain, noise, or warning. It progresses quietly, long before a fracture, a fall, or even a scan ever reveals it. One of the most overlooked threats isn't calcium deficiency, and it isn't lack of exercise either. It's a breakdown in bone signaling. Your bones may be receiving nutrients every single day, yet never getting the message to rebuild. And most people don't realize this until everyday movement starts to feel different. Here's the hidden danger. When osteoblasts, the cells that build new bone, remain understimulated, bone tissue weakens from the inside out. This doesn't just reduce bone density on paper. It affects balance, posture, confidence while walking, and how quickly you recover from a minor slip. What's unsettling is that many people in this position are doing exactly what they were told was right for bone health. That contradiction alone should make anyone pause. If you're over 60, this matters deeply. Aging bones don't simply need more nutrition or more protein. They need clear, targeted biological instructions. Without those instructions, bone repair slows year after year, even when meals look healthy and habits feel disciplined. And according to emerging research in aging metabolism, this kind of miscommunication becomes more common with each decade. So what if effort isn't the real issue at all? Here's where concern turns into clarity. The problem is rarely a lack of trying. It's that many daily habits rely on weak signals. They feel reassuring. They feel responsible. But they fail to activate the cellular machinery required for real bone rebuilding. That growing gap between effort and outcome is where frustration quietly sets in, and where many seniors begin to believe bone loss after 60 is inevitable. But it isn't. Now for the good news, and this part truly matters. Bone cells are not passive. Even later in life, they can respond when the right signal finally arrives. Research shows osteoblast activity can improve when the body receives specific amino acid patterns and metabolic cues. In simple terms, bone strength after 60 isn't gone. It's waiting for clearer instructions. And once that message lands, meaningful change can still happen. This is where hope enters the picture. You don't need extreme diets. You don't need shelves of supplements. And you certainly don't need to accept gradual weakening as just aging. The solution begins with understanding which everyday protein choices actually speak your bone's language and which ones barely whisper. That distinction is where real progress either begins or quietly stalls. In this video, you'll discover how different protein sources send very different messages inside aging bone tissue, and why choosing them in the right order matters more than quantity alone. You'll see why some options simply maintain the system, while others help rebuild bone density naturally, without stressing digestion or daily routines. So stay with me, because in the next section we'll break down how protein signaling really works in aging bones, and why the very first choice you make can determine whether rebuilding begins or never quite starts at all. According to recent research from leading aging and bone health laboratories, bone strength after 60 depends less on how much protein you eat, and far more on how bone cells interpret that protein. In simple terms, bones don't absorb protein the way muscles do. They wait for a very specific biological signal before deciding to rebuild. That's why so many older adults feel they're doing everything right, yet scans still show gradual bone thinning. This disconnect is exactly where confusion quietly begins for many seniors. A 2023 study on osteoblast behavior found that these bone-building cells become far more selective with age. In everyday language, your bones stop responding to weak instructions and only act when the message is clear enough. That explains why two people eating similar diets can experience completely different bone density outcomes after 60. So the real question isn't discipline, it's whether your bones are actually listening at all. Researchers studying protein metabolism in older adults have also shown that not all amino acids trigger the same response in bone tissue. Put simply, some protein sources fade into the background, while others sound like a clear command. This helps explain why many seniors notice subtle changes: posture slowly shifting, balance feeling less steady, recovery after minor strain taking longer, despite eating well. Long before symptoms feel serious, bone signaling may already be changing. Clinical observations add an encouraging layer to this picture. Even aging bones retain the ability to adapt when the right signal finally arrives. In plain terms, bone cells don't retire, they wait. That's why some people see meaningful improvements in bone strength later in life that seem to come out of nowhere. The timing feels surprising, but the biology behind it is very real and very hopeful. What's rarely discussed is that protein isn't a single message. It's a language with different tones and strengths. Think of it like conversation. Some voices are too quiet to hear. Others finally command attention. This perspective explains why routines that worked at 45 can feel ineffective at 65, off, even when consistency hasn't changed. The message stayed the same, but the listener changed. According to experts in geriatric nutrition and bone health, recognizing this shift is one of the missing links in how we talk about aging bones. In simple terms, it's not about eating more protein, it's about choosing smarter protein sources for bone density. And once that idea clicks, it changes how we look at everyday foods we've trusted for decades, especially the ones we assume are good enough. So before we go any further, here's the key idea to hold on to. Bones don't weaken because you stop trying. They weaken when the message never lands. And in the next section, we'll start unpacking how different protein signals vary in strength, and why starting in the wrong place can quietly stall progress before it ever begins. Now, let's count down the protein sources that truly matter for bone strength after 60, starting with the weakest signal and moving step by step toward the one that speaks most clearly to bone-building cells. Stay with me, because as we get closer to number 1, you may notice why some choices feel helpful, yet never quite move the needle for bone density after 60. And here's the key. We're not just talking about protein. We're talking about which proteins actually trigger osteoblast activation and which ones mostly maintain the system without pushing real repair. If you've ever wondered why you're eating healthy but still feel less steady, the next few minutes will explain a lot, especially because the early items can create a false sense of progress. Number 9. Lentils. Support without activation. The mechanism works quietly in the background. Lentils provide plant protein plus magnesium and polyphenols that can calm low-grade inflammation, and that matters because inflammation interferes with normal bone turnover. In simple terms, lentils help keep the environment around bone tissue cleaner, so nutrients have a better chance of being used. In practical use, lentils fit perfectly into soups, stews, or dinner bowls a few times per week, especially if you're over 60 and want something gentle on digestion. But here's the caution. Many older adults assume that because lentils are healthy, they must be strong for rebuilding. Lentils rarely trigger a strong osteoblast activation signal on their own, which means they can support bone health without creating meaningful momentum. The result is stability, not stimulation. And this is often where people stop, thinking, I've got my protein covered. But what if the real issue isn't having protein? It's having the right signal. Number 8. Tofu. Gentle signals, limited push. The mechanism behind tofu involves isoflavones and complete plant protein that may help slow bone breakdown more than it actively drives new formation. Think of tofu as a quiet helper. It can support balance in the system, but it doesn't always deliver the clear command bones need to rebuild strongly after 60. In practical use, tofu works well as a protein swap when digestion is sensitive, appetite is lower, or you're trying to keep meals lighter. It can be an easy lunch or dinner option several times per week. The caution for seniors is relying on tofu as the primary bone-building protein day after day, assuming it's the best protein for bone health simply because it's complete. For some bodies, the signal remains too soft to create visible change over time. The result is preservation, not progress, and this raises an important question. When the signal finally gets stronger, does your body start responding differently? Number 7. Yogurt. Familiar but mild. The mechanism comes from pairing protein with calcium, supporting mineral availability in the bloodstream. Yogurt can help maintain consistency, which is valuable because aging bones respond better to steady routines than sporadic perfect days. In practical use, plain yogurt in the morning is simple, realistic, and easy to repeat, especially for adults over 60 who want a habit that doesn't feel overwhelming. But here's the caution. Mineral presence isn't the same as a rebuilding message. Many people confuse calcium in the food with calcium being placed into bone, and without a stronger protein signal, the body may not prioritize bone repair. The result is balance without momentum, and this is where bone health improvement often quietly plateaus. If you felt like you're doing the right things but not seeing results, you're about to understand why. Because the next options start sending a very different kind of message. Number 6. Kefir. Better absorption, still moderate. The mechanism behind kefir works through what researchers now call the gut-bone axis. Kefir contains probiotics that support a healthier intestinal environment, improving how protein, calcium, and magnesium are absorbed and transported throughout the body. For aging adults, this matters because nutrient absorption efficiency often declines after 60, even when diet quality looks excellent on paper. In other words, kefir helps your body use what you're already eating more effectively. In practical use, a small daily glass of kefir is enough to support this process. Taken consistently, it can improve digestive efficiency and reduce the bottleneck that prevents nutrients from reaching bone tissue. Many seniors notice fewer digestive issues and a steadier sense of balance once absorption improves. But here's the key detail most people miss. Better absorption does not automatically mean stronger bone signals. A caution with kefir is tolerance for fermented foods, which can vary widely with age. Some adults may need to start slowly to avoid discomfort, and while kefir improves utilization, it doesn't send a strong enough rebuilding message on its own. This is often the stage where people feel something is helping, but can't quite see measurable progress yet. The result is better nutrient efficiency and a more supportive internal environment for bone health. Bones become more receptive but not fully activated. And this is exactly where many adults begin wondering what they're missing. Because the system feels ready, but real rebuilding hasn't started. That curiosity is important because the next step finally changes the message itself. Number 5. Tempeh, fermentation, changes the message. The mechanism behind tempeh goes beyond digestion and into signaling. Tempeh is a fermented soy product, and fermentation changes how amino acids are delivered to the body. This process improves amino acid availability and supports growth factor signaling tied directly to bone turnover. For aging bones, this is a subtle but meaningful shift, from passive support to early activation. It's one of the first plant-based proteins that bones actually begin to notice. In practical use, tempeh works well several times per week, especially for plant-based eaters focused on aging bones nutrition. Its denser structure and fermentation make it more metabolically active than unfermented soy products. Many adults find that tempeh feels more satisfying and stabilizing than lighter plant proteins. This is often where the first signs of engagement appear, even if changes are still gradual. A caution with tempeh is portion size and preparation. Overeating or heavily processed versions can blunt its benefits. The goal is consistency, not excess. When used thoughtfully, tempeh begins to support mild osteoblast engagement, something earlier plant proteins rarely achieve. And for many seniors, this is the first time the signal doesn't completely fade into the background. The result is early recognition by bone-building cells. The signal isn't loud yet, but it finally registers. Bones start to receive clearer instructions, and the body shifts from preparation into response. This is the moment when people often realize they're getting closer, but not quite there yet, because the strongest signals are still ahead. Number 4. Chicken, when muscle starts the conversation. The mechanism behind chicken works through a powerful but often misunderstood pathway known as muscle-to-bone communication. Chicken provides leucine-rich, high-quality protein that supports muscle strength, and stronger muscles create mechanical signals that travel directly to bone tissue during everyday movement. This process, called mechanical loading, tells bones that they are still needed, still used, and still worth reinforcing. After 60, this message becomes increasingly important because bones are far less responsive to weak or inconsistent signals. In other words, bones don't rebuild in isolation. They respond to what muscles are doing around them every single day. In practical use, lean chicken consumed with regular meals helps meet daily protein needs without overwhelming digestion, which is especially important for older adults. This steady intake supports muscle maintenance, and when muscles remain active, bones are far more likely to stay engaged. Pairing chicken with light, regular activity, such as walking, climbing stairs, or gentle resistance exercises, can dramatically amplify this effect. Many people don't realize that this simple combination of protein plus movement is where bone rebuilding often shifts from theoretical advice into something that feels realistic and achievable. And this is usually the moment people start asking, why didn't anyone explain it this way before? A key caution at this stage is overlooking supporting micronutrients. Chicken alone does not provide everything bones require, especially minerals and cofactors involved in bone metabolism. When relied on without balance, its signal can remain incomplete, sending mixed messages to bone tissue. The goal here is not perfection, but coordination, supporting muscle first so bone has a reason to respond. This is often the stage where people sense real progress, even if they can't quite explain why their posture feels steadier or movement feels easier. The result is indirect but meaningful bone stimulation. Over time, posture begins to feel more upright, movement feels more confident, and bones start responding to daily life again instead of quietly withdrawing. For many adults over 60, this becomes the turning point where bone health shifts from trying to slow decline to actively supporting strength and stability. But as effective as this muscle-driven pathway is, there's still one major obstacle that can block the signal entirely, and that obstacle is inflammation. And this is exactly where the next protein changes everything. Number 3. Fish, clearing the path for repair. The mechanism behind fish combines high-quality protein with omega-3 fatty acids, creating a unique advantage for aging bones. While protein supplies the raw building material, omega-3s work in a very different way. They help calm chronic, low-grade inflammation that quietly interferes with bone repair. After 60, this inflammatory background noise becomes one of the biggest hidden barriers to rebuilding bone density. Fish doesn't just add protein to the system, it clears the path so the message can finally get through. In practical use, 2 servings of fish per week are enough to support this process. Fatty fish in particular help reduce inflammatory markers that block osteoblast activity, allowing bone-building cells to function more efficiently. For many seniors, this reduction in internal resistance is what allows bone metabolism to wake up again after years of sluggish response. This is why people often notice steadier movement, improved joint comfort, and better balance around this stage, even though they haven't changed much else. A critical caution with fish is preparation method. Excess frying, heavy breading, or overprocessing can counteract many of the anti-inflammatory benefits fish provides. The goal is simplicity, not excess. When prepared gently, fish becomes one of the most efficient foods for supporting bone repair after 60, without stressing digestion or disrupting daily routines. And this is where many people realize something important. Bone strength isn't always about adding more and more nutrients. It's often about removing what's been blocking progress all along. The result is clearer bone signaling and a far more receptive internal environment. Bones become better able to respond to the messages they receive, and progress begins to feel smoother rather than forced. For many adults, this stage marks the moment when balance improves, steps feel more secure, and movement becomes less guarded. But even with the path cleared, bones still need a stronger, more direct rebuilding signal. And that's exactly what comes next. Number 2, red meat, dense and direct. The mechanism behind red meat is dense and highly efficient for aging bones. It delivers concentrated, high-quality protein along with zinc and iron, 2 minerals that play a direct role in bone matrix enzyme activity. These enzymes are essential for maintaining the internal scaffolding that gives bones their strength and resistance to stress. In other words, red meat doesn't just feed the system, it supports the actual construction process inside bone tissue. And this matters more after 60, when bones respond less to weak or diluted signals. In practical use, red meat works best in small, controlled portions once or twice per week. This timing allows adults over 60 to benefit from its bone-supporting nutrients without overwhelming digestion or increasing inflammatory load. Pairing red meat with vegetables rich in antioxidants can further support bone metabolism and overall balance. What many people don't realize is that more is not better here. Precision is. A key caution is excess intake. Large or frequent portions can shift the balance in the wrong direction, especially for seniors managing cholesterol, kidney health, or cardiovascular risk. The goal is not quantity, but signal clarity. When used correctly, red meat sends a firm, unmistakable rebuilding message to bone tissue, one that aging bones can still recognize and act on. This is often the point where people first notice that their routine is finally making a difference. The result is a stronger internal framework, improved resilience, and a sense that bone strength is no longer slipping quietly in the background. For many adults, this is where progress becomes visible and confidence begins to return. But even this isn't the strongest signal. One option remains that many people overlook completely. Number 1, eggs, the most overlooked signal. And finally, the most surprising one. Eggs deliver one of the clearest and most complete protein signals available for aging bones. The mechanism combines all essential amino acids with vitamin D, choline, and leucine, nutrients that directly activate osteoblasts, the cells responsible for building new bone. Unlike many protein sources, eggs provide both the message and the tools needed for repair. That's why their impact is often underestimated until people experience the difference themselves. In practical use, eggs are remarkably easy to digest and fit naturally into daily routines, making them ideal for adults over 60 who may struggle with appetite or heavy meals. Consumed in the morning or earlier in the day, Eggs provide a steady signal that supports bone metabolism without stressing the system. This simplicity is exactly what makes them so powerful and so often dismissed. The main caution is cooking style, not the egg itself. Overprocessing or pairing eggs with heavily refined fats can blunt their benefits. Prepared simply, they remain one of the most reliable ways to support bone density after 60. And this is where many people realize that the most effective solution was never exotic or complicated. The result is the clearest osteoblast activation signal for aging bones, consistent, recognizable, and sustainable over time. For many seniors, eggs become the turning point where bone health finally feels manageable again, not fragile or uncertain. It's often the last place people look, and the first place results begin. And in the next section, we'll connect these signals into a simple daily strategy. So you're not just informed, but confident about how to strengthen bones naturally after 60, using choices that are practical, safe, and easy to maintain. If you've been feeling tired, unsteady, or quietly concerned about your bones lately, you're not alone. The good news is that your body can still respond and adapt at any age, often more than you expect when it comes to bone strength after 60. Share in the comments how old you are and your biggest health goal right now. Your story may inspire someone watching today who's on the same path. As always, check with your doctor before making major diet changes, especially if you take medications or manage a chronic condition. Remember, your body has a remarkable ability to rebuild when given the right support. So if this video helped you understand how to strengthen bones naturally, like it and share it with someone who could use this encouragement.